What's up, everybody? My name is Kyphxr, and welcome back to Kult Rising. As you can see, we've been working on the swinging mechanics, and it's still a little bit rough around the edges, but I'm happy with where it is right now. I'm still working on it, still tuning things up. But from last episode, now if we press shift, oh, that's not what I meant to do. So if we hook onto something, if we press shift, it'll shorten our rope and it'll pull us towards it. If we press jump while we're in the air, it does the boost, which we already had. And then if you press caps lock, it'll give you a zip to point kind of. We need to make it a little bit stronger, but the idea is this one's going to be like a zip to point and it'll take you to that place. Right now I have the cooldown for that one turned off, so I can use this to get insane momentum. But I'm really happy with how this feels. I've spent probably way too much time today just swinging around this map. We've also added, it's hard to tell because I don't have any animations for it, but we added an F key on the dive, or we added dive on the F key. So if I hold down F, you see I'll slam down a lot faster. So we need to add a diving animation for that, but that's set up. And then I've added all of these mines around the area, as well as some buildings for swinging around with. They're still not really enough. It's still kind of difficult to swing sometimes, especially without the like this ability. But we have also set it up so the controllers now carry their momentum over. So if we go like this and then we switch back to the other player controller, you'll see we'll keep the momentum instead of just spawning in the air and then falling straight down like we were before. So now there's actually a benefit to, at least somewhat, to using that form. You can very quickly traverse the map. And so obviously, I mean, this is a little bit stronger than what's probably going to be in the actual game. And so basically this means we're going to start building maps on sort of two separate scales at the same time per map. So on the one hand, we'll have our sort of macro scale for whenever you're just like sort of playing the game normally. You have your items, your resources, your base, your interactables, all your normal stuff. But then we also need to have more of a macro level where the actual geometry of the world basically allows for you to utilize these sort of like crazy movement mechanics. Because if there's not space to be able to swing around, then like the fact that there is a swinging mechanic is kind of moot, right? And so like obviously there will be certain missions in the actual like story mode where you'll probably be limited in how much you'll be able to swing for just like what's the word, narrative purposes. But whenever we're in like one of the open world environments like this, or one of the survival environments, I kind of want to allow you to really have access to everything. And so because of that, I need to allow for you to basically utilize all of the systems within these maps. And so this one and SCP-3008 are going to be the big ones, but making sure that the large scale geometry, and it doesn't have to literally be large scale like this is obviously just a giant chain, but like looking at the overall like silhouette of the level, so like the way that buildings are laid out, trees, things like that, and making sure that there's enough room to navigate between them when you're moving at the really high speeds of the car and the swinging. And then B, there has to be enough verticality that you can actually utilize all of those mechanics. And so I can show you the car here. This is a little bit busted because the interact is messed up. So this just, I can show you where it is actually. But if I interact with that car up there, it'll teleport you over to here. I have the other model here. But if we hop in this car, then we can come over here, and I have begun adding a second island. Alright, I'm actually gonna mute this because the car sounds are way too loud. What is this? Oh, it's one of the planets. The planets from the old Clicker game are under the terrain. I was so confused about why there was a blue blob in the middle of the ground. Anyways, this, as you can see, is a very ripe opportunity for having some cool, like, giant monster visuals. So we're gonna add some things to this bridge here. Right now there's nothing, but we have this large land bridge here which you can cross, and when we get to the other side we essentially just have a really big flat island, which it's kind of hard to tell because there's nothing like actually on the ground, so you don't really have a frame of reference for where things are. But we have well, shit. We have a really big actually, let me just get rid of the fog. So we have this really big island over here, which we're gonna kind of tune to be the car area. I'm not sure exactly what it's gonna be like. I think for now, it'll probably just end up being some sort of racetrack kind of thing. Again, going with like the verticality sort of angle, so it'll likely be like if you play Trackmania, it'll kind of be like a tower map, but it'll basically just be like a track that goes up, I think. But I am happy with how this map looks right now. I need to fill it in with more things, especially buildings, but I'm still trying to get a feel for how I want things to be laid out. Like I said, I'm trying to think simultaneously about how it looks when you're just walking on the ground in first person, as well as when you're moving at like 100 miles an hour and you're swinging through the air. But because we have this mobility character on the Switch, at least for right now, what I'm planning on doing is I'm gonna create a UI system here where you can have sort of like an inventory of, they're gonna be called sims. So from now on, if I say sim, it means I'm referring to one of the characters that you have the ability to control. And so you're gonna have a sort of, it'll be similar to this, but it'll just be like another inventory here. And then you can have 3 equipped at once, and then you'll be able to switch out which ones you have, and then you'll be able to cycle through them. I'm not sure exactly how that system's gonna work yet. But for right now, while that's not implemented, I have this controller here. Oh wait, this gun isn't ready. So now you use this controller to switch to the FPS character. You can see we've increased the lean a little bit. I still have to adjust it on the gun because the aiming is a little bit, it still pulls you in a little bit more than I'd prefer, but it definitely like has some usability now. Before, you really weren't even like looking out around things, and now at least you get a little bit of visibility. And then if I switch to first person here, that's not first person. If I switch to third person here, there we go. I don't know why I keep thinking it's on control, but I mean why it's on alt. It's on control. I'm gonna switch it, I think, but the problem here is actually that the crosshair is not lined up. But you can see here that I'm below the wall, but you can blind fire over top of it. And I don't have this set up to work in first person yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to have it set up to work in first person. I think I'm gonna have, I think the general sort of philosophy I'm gonna go with is, instead of having like your typical sort of classes, this game's gonna operate using sort of like these characters here we have now. So you'll have like your gunman, sort of character who has just your, well, he'll have the option to choose between first person or third person. And I think I mentioned this a little bit in the like state of the game video, but the general idea is that in third person, the guns will have bloom, and in first person they'll have recoil patterns. And then both of those things will be able to be lessened with stats. But then when you move over to the other side of things, whenever you get to weapons like bows and arrows, things are going to get more complicated. Because on the one hand, I want to sort of emulate the like Hanzo Hawkeye sort of feel from like Overwatch and Marvel Rivals. But on the other hand, bows tend to work better with like the almost an MMO sort of system where it has like lock on. And so basically you're gonna have the choice in this game between first person free aim, third person free aim, and then lock on aim. And so lock on aim will only be available to, well, the only thing that won't be able to use lock on aim will be guns. So if you're using any kind of gun, you won't be able to use the lock on target, but melee weapons, certain ranged weapons like bows and arrows, boomerangs, that kind of thing, will be able to use lock on, but then they'll be able to use the standard like free aim as well. And so the difference between those two is whenever you're using lock on, it'll trigger your accuracy stat. And so regardless of the fact that you're using lock on, you'll still miss sometimes. It'll just be calculated based on how high your accuracy is, as opposed to free aim where your misses will just be purely skill based. And so it'll give a sort of, the class system is more so a choice between like mechanical skill and knowledge based skill. So like more like cooldown management versus raw aim are sort of the kind of class fundamentals that we're going for with this game, if that makes any sense at all, because I just kind of rambled for a couple minutes, and so I'm honestly not sure if that made any sense. But I think next we're going to be working on the sim switch UI. I think that's what's next up on our list.